Welcome to the Carty Method podcast. If there's one lesson that has consistently proven true over my 34 years behind the camera, it's waiting. If you're waiting until you feel ready, that's a trap. That's one thing that I've realized is if you're waiting until you're ready, that's a trap. Anytime that I've ever waited until I was ready, I found myself waiting for absolute years. The truth is, you're never going to be entirely ready. And if you wait for that elusive moment, you're going to miss out on countless opportunities to grow, to create, and to make an impact. The key to success in photography and in life is actually starting before you know how. In today's video, I'm going to break down why the idea of needing to be fully prepared before diving in is a myth, and it holds so many photographers back. We're going to explore how taking action, even when you're uncertain, can lead to some of the most significant breakthroughs in your career. Today, you're going to learn how to overcome the paralyzing mindset of waiting until everything is perfect and how to turn fear and uncertainty into fuel for your creative process and the creative steps, the practical steps that you can take today to start making progress, even if you feel like you're not completely ready. By the end of today's video, you're going to know how to reframe your mindset from one hesitation to one of action. You're not going to be a hesitating person. You're going to be an action person, and how to embrace imperfections as part of your growth, and how to build momentum in your photography career by starting with what you have right where you are right now. So, how do you start before you know how? Oki, member for another 12 months. Thank you, Oki. I appreciate you. If there's one lesson that I've seen time and time again in my 34 years behind the camera, it's this. If you wait, you can't wait. So if you wait until you feel ready, you're never going to start. The truth is, you will never actually feel 100% entirely ready. You have to start before you even know how. There's always going to be one more thing to learn. There's always going to be one more skill to master or one more piece of gear to buy. But here's the kicker. By the time you think you're ready, you've already missed countless opportunities to grow, to create, and to make an impact. So, what does it mean to start before you know how? What does that mean to actually start before you know how? What it means, it's about stepping into the unknown, embracing the uncertainty, and being willing to make pictures, to create content, and build your photography business, even if you don't have everything perfectly figured out. It's about understanding that action creates clarity and momentum. I'm going to say that again. Action creates clarity and momentum. In fact, some of the most significant breakthroughs in your career will come not from when you're sitting back and planning out every detail, but when you're out there doing the work. Let's talk about the myth of readiness. When I talk about the myth of readiness, I'm addressing a very pervasive mindset that hinders many talented photographers from stepping into their full potential. This myth convinces you that you need to acquire just a little bit more knowledge or get just one more piece of gear or wait until your portfolio is just perfectly polished before you can pursue serious work. But here's the reality. Readiness is a moving target. Do you hear that? Readiness is a moving target. As you learn one more thing you have to do, oh my God, you got to do that. And then you do that. And then you learn you got to do one more thing. And then you learn that. And then you learn. It's like, It's a moving target. You might feel more prepared as you gain experience, but you'll also discover new challenges, new knowledge gaps along the way. It's a never ending cycle that can keep you stuck if you're not careful. So, why is that mindset so dangerous? Because it creates a barrier to entry that's completely self imposed. In my experience, readiness is often a guise for fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of not being good enough. Here's the truth. You become ready by actually doing. Every professional I know, myself included, started out with doubts and insecurities. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that successful photographers take action despite those fears. There's actually no way to learn how to do this unless you do this. You can't simply learn the theory of photography business or the theory of photography in general. You have to do it. We learn by doing, and we can't learn how to drive, obviously, unless we drive. We can't learn the business of photography unless we do it. I'm here as your guide, but you have to take those first steps. So here's your actionable steps. Challenge your assumptions. Take a moment to list out all the reasons why you feel like you're not ready. Are they truly valid, or are they just excuses rooted in fear? Often, you'll find that the barriers you've set up are more about perception than reality. How can you say that something is hard to do if you've never done it? Number 2, take a leap with what you have. Choose one project, choose one client opportunity that you've been putting off because you don't feel ready. Commit to doing it with the skills, with the gear, and with the knowledge that you currently possess. You'll likely surprise yourself with the results. And number 3, reframe your mindset. Instead of thinking, I need to be more ready before I start, shift your mindset to, I'll figure this out as I go. I'm a smart cookie. Embrace the process of learning by doing and recognize that this is how most professionals grow. We learn by doing. We learn through doing. The concept of learning through doing, it's not just a motivational slogan, eh? It's a tried and true approach to mastering any craft. No amount of theory or passive learning can replace the lessons learned through actual practice. This is particularly true in creative fields like what we do, photography, where real-world experience often will always trump book knowledge. When I look back at my early career, I didn't wait until I had everything figured out before I started taking on assignments. I shot my first magazine picture when I was 19 years old, got my first studio when I was 21. Do you think I was ready? I learned by taking on work that stretched my abilities, which were forcing me to adapt and forcing me to grow. Every shoot taught me something new, whether it was how to handle difficult lighting situations, how to interact with clients, or how to manage unexpected challenges. These lessons were invaluable, and they couldn't have been learned any other way. The beauty of learning through doing is that it actually accelerates your growth. When you're in the trenches, so to speak, you're confronted with real problems that require real solutions. That kind of learning, it sticks because it's directly applicable to your work. Also, each project that you do completes and builds your confidence. It completes and builds your confidence, making you more willing to take on bigger and greater challenges. So here's your actionable steps. Start a personal project. Please, you hear me talk about personal work all the time. Identify a type of photography or theme that you're passionate about, but you haven't explored it deep enough. Start a personal project centered around that theme. It could be a portrait series, a self-portrait series, a photo essay, an experimental shoot. The key is to dive in and to learn as you go. Here's another thing that you can do. You could volunteer your services. I say always, I would rather you shoot for free than shoot for very little money, because free gives you the power. You have the power to create an amazing experience and get an amazing testimonial. If you charge $50, what you're doing now is you're making that person think that you're worth, or you think that you're worth $50. Do it for free, give them a $5,000 experience, and get a testimonial based on that experience that you can now charge real rates. So, volunteer your services. Offer to shoot for a local nonprofit or a friend's event or some sort of community organization. Start to get into the habit of interacting with people and not just taking pictures of what's happening as an observer, but interacting and make pictures of what's happening. Volunteering also allows you to practice in a lower pressure environment while still providing a valuable learning experience. And another thing that you can do is set a challenge for yourself. Give yourself a challenge to create a series of images using a specific technique, a specific piece of equipment, or a style that you're unfamiliar with. And set a deadline to complete that series, because what you don't track, you don't finish. Assess what you've learned during the process. This is something that everybody needs to hear over and over and over again. Perfectionism is procrastination in disguise. Perfection is procrastination in disguise. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Perfectionism is a creativity killer. It's actually procrastination wrapped in a prettier package. It's that voice in your head that tells you nothing's ever good enough, and that you're not talented enough, and that your work must be flawless before it can be shared with the world. Flawless. It's got to be flawless. Perfectionism masquerades as a high standard, but in reality, it's a barrier for you to actually get to that higher standard. It stops you from completing projects. It stops you from being a finisher. It stops you from sharing your work, and it stops you from moving forward in your career. Here's the thing. In the real world, perfectionism doesn't exist. Perfectionism doesn't exist. Clients, viewers, even peers are far less critical of your work than you are. I'm the most critical of your work than anybody, because I believe you have to have a discerning eye, but the things that I see, your clients will never see. What they care about is whether you can deliver results, whether you can solve problems, and whether you can bring creativity to the table on demand. Your work will never be perfect, but it can be impactful, it can be meaningful, and it can be effective. One of the most liberating realizations that I've had in my career, that done is better than perfect. I want to say that again. It's liberating to realize that done is better than perfect. It doesn't mean that you should deliver shitty work, but it does mean that you should be striving. It does mean that when you're striving for perfection, what it does is it adds unnecessary delays, missed opportunities, and it leads to burnout. So, progress happens when you allow yourself to be imperfect, but committed to getting better. Imperfect, but committed to getting better. Committed to growth. Here's your actionable steps. Set a deadline for every project. If you give yourself a month to do something, it'll take a month. Give yourself 2 weeks to do something, it'll take 2 weeks. Give yourself a week, it'll take a week. Give yourself 2 days, it'll take 2 days. Give yourself a day to do something, it'll take a day. Set a deadline for every project. Give yourself a strict deadline for completing each project, even personal ones. And when the deadline arrives, consider the project done and move on to the next one. This prevents you from endlessly tweaking and second guessing your work. How many photographers that I see, they shoot something, it's garbage. So what do? They go into Photoshop and they try to rework it. It's still garbage. Okay, well, let me spray some perfume on it. Let me spray more perfume on it. Let me lift the underarms and put a little bit of this on there. It's still garbage. Just shoot more work and do more reps, and the work will eventually not be that way. And you also have to release your work into the world. You gotta put it out there, and you'll get feedback. Share your work regularly, literally, share your work regularly, even when you don't think it's perfect. Whether it's on social media, whether it's in your portfolio, or in a professional setting, get comfortable with putting your work on the table. Sending your work for photo reviews like so many of you do, that feedback is so critical. It's a crucial part of your growth. And when you get a bad review, it's okay. You can fix that. You can make more work. That photograph, it's not your kid. I'm not saying your kid's ugly. I'm saying that photograph is not working. So make another one. You know, it's just a piece of media that you're putting out into the world. If that piece of media isn't working for you, put it in the trash, make a better one. Make a better one until you start refining and realizing, oh, this is what I have to do in order to make my work work. But you have to put it out there. You have to put it out there to get that feedback. Embrace imperfection as a learning tool. Imperfection is a learning instrument. Instead of obsessing over minor flaws, focus on what you learned from them. Every imperfection is an opportunity to improve, and every project teaches you something new. The power of starting small. Starting small might sound not glamorous, but it's the most effective strategies for building a sustainable career in photography. Starting small. When you start small, you give yourself room to grow, to experiment, and to adapt without the overwhelming pressure of perfection or immediate success. Small beginnings are often the foundation of great achievements. Consider this. Many of the world's most successful photographers didn't start with high-profile gigs or incredibly extensive portfolios. They began with small, manageable projects, gradually building up their skills, their reputation, and their client base. Starting small allows you to take risks. It allows you to make mistakes, and it allows you to learn at your own pace. Also, small projects often lead to bigger opportunities. A small gig today can result in referrals because you got that amazing testimonial, portfolio pieces because you shot this thing so good that you need to show it as an example of what you could do for other people, and long-term clients. That work is so good. It's been in my book for 4 years. It's still getting me work. The key to this approach is every project, no matter how small, with professionalism and dedication, you can treat every opportunity as a stepping stone towards a larger goal. You approach every project and don't downplay anything. Upplay it. Upplay things. Something small thing, how can you make it a big thing? treat each and every opportunity as a stepping stone towards your larger goal. So here's your actionable steps. Break down your massive goals into smaller tasks. Like, I want to make $150,000 a year with my camera. Okay, let's break that down. You'll get there. But let's break that down into smaller tasks. If you have a big project or a big goal in mind, break it down. Smaller, more digestible, more manageable tasks. This makes the overall goal less daunting and makes it easier for you to make steady progress. And also, you have to track it. You got to take the $150,000. Well, how much now do I have to make per month? How much now do I have to make per week? How much now do I have to make per day? Now, how many shoots would I have to make per week, per month, per day based on my current rates? I think it's time to increase your rates. But you got to increase your quality in order to increase your rates. And this is what the whole Carty method is all about. Another thing you can do is be consistent. You can focus on consistency over quantity. Consistency over quantity. Instead of trying to take on multiple big projects at once, focus on consistently completing smaller projects. Because guess what? Once you get into the consistency of doing smaller things, then you can get into the consistency of doing slightly bigger things, and then the consistency of doing medium things, and then the consistency of doing huge things. Consistency builds momentum. It builds confidence, which are crucial for long-term success. So, I have a Substack, and I've been posting on Substack for 78 weeks in a row. And when I talk about consistency, I can't talk about consistency without actually also being consistent. I have to be consistent in order to talk about consistency. So Substack was a great way for me to maintain long-term consistency and leverage each opportunity. Here's another thing. Treat every small project as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to showcase your photography. Deliver your best. Deliver your best, even on the smallest jobs. And always look for ways to build relationships and expand your network. Have you said this after a photo shoot? Hey, did you have a good time today? Yes, it was amazing. Would you mind giving me a testimonial? Of course I would. Just send me the link. Also, here's something to think about. Could you think of 3 people that would also benefit from this experience that I just gave you? Yeah, well, let me think about that. And now you're getting that person to think about other people that they could connect you with and make a personal introduction. Do that every photo shoot, and you'll be working every day. So, action. Action, action, action. Action creates momentum. Action creates momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in your career. I'm going to say that again. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in your career. Once you start taking action, even small steps, you begin to build momentum. That momentum propels you forward, making it easier to tackle bigger challenges, take on more complex projects, and yes, achieve your goals. The beauty of momentum is that it feeds itself. The more you do, the more confident you become. And the more confident you become, the more opportunities you create. It's a cycle that, once started, can lead to exponential growth in your career. I didn't know this when I first started my business, but that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I used momentum. But here's the catch. Momentum only happens if you take the first step. Even if you don't feel ready, Taking action is often the hardest part because it requires overcoming inertia, overcoming fear, overcoming doubt. But the moment that you start, even with something small, you feel a shift. Suddenly, the next step doesn't seem quite so daunting. And before you know it, you're making progress that you never thought possible. So here's your actionable steps. Start each day with a small win. Super simple. Start each day by accomplishing a small task related to your photography. Super simple. Could be waking up and editing a few photos, or waking up, reaching out to a potential client, or brainstorming ideas for your next session. Starting the day with a win sets a positive tone and creates momentum for the rest of the day. Here's another thing you can do. Commit to a single daily action, just one. Make it a habit to take at least one action per day that moves you closer to your goal. It doesn't have to be huge. The key is consistency. Over time, these small daily actions add up to significant progress. Imagine you have to build a website. And you're like, oh my God, I have to build a website. And you're so overwhelmed and you think about all the different things you have to do. And guess what? You just think about it. You don't do anything. Only small daily actions can add up to significant progress. Trying to take a huge bite of everything all at once, you're going to get full up, you're going to get overwhelmed, and you're going to go do something else. So reflect and build on success. At the end of each week, reflect on the progress that you made. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small, and use them for motivation to keep going. Oh my God, last week, I put all my shots together that I want to consider for my website. Okay, next week, I'm going to do my first round of editing to narrow down to shots that I think are worthy. Hey, the next week after, I'm going to start looking for templates from, you got to keep going. Recognizing your progress fuels further momentum and encourages you to take on and tackle even bigger and better challenges. So, here's what you have to do. You have to embrace the journey. Literally, you gotta embrace the journey. This is supposed to be fun, eh? Starting before you know how is about trusting yourself and trusting the process. It's about recognizing that growth comes from doing, not just planning. And know this, perfectionism and perfection is a myth, and that myth is holding you back. When you take action, when you embrace imperfection and start small, you create momentum. You create momentum that drives your career forward. So don't wait for the perfect moment for all those stars to align. Guess what? It never happens, or it'll happen once every 200 years. Start with what you have. Start with where you are right now and let the journey itself teach you. The path to success is never a straight line, but it's full of valuable lessons, unexpected opportunities, and incredibly rewarding experiences. So you have to embrace the journey, and you're going to find that you're capable of way more than you ever imagined. You know, I'm Carty, and I am here as your guide, but ultimately, it's up to you to take that first step. Know this: the road to making it as a professional photographer is long, but if you start, you can have progress if you start. And if you're not sure how to start, that's all I do is I make content for emerging, struggling photographers. I make content for underperforming photographers. If you have a photography business and you're not making over 50, over 75, over $100,000 a year, you're doing something wrong. You need help. Get a coach. This is all I do. It's what I obsess about. You are listening to the Carty Method podcast. And by the way, you can listen to me now. You don't just have to watch me on YouTube. You can subscribe to the Carty Method podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and if you are on Substack, you can find my Carty Method podcast on Substack. I put it out a couple times a week, at least. Sometimes it might be as many as 3 times a week. If this content brought you value, please consider hitting the like button. Please consider leaving me a comment. If you're on Spotify or Apple Music, please leave me a review. And know this, there is nobody on earth that is here to make you famous. It is up to you to create your own legend. The only way that can happen is if you start. Start today. Go to thecartymethod.com and find out how I can help you along this journey. You can follow the show notes. Go into the video description and see all the different ways that I can help you. If this content brought you value, make a clip. Share it to your social networks and talk about what I'm doing here with people. And honestly, we're trying to grow this. I'm almost at 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. You can help me get there by subscribing to me on YouTube. You can help this thing get a little bit more traction by leaving a review on Spotify or on Apple Music. Give me a 5 stars if that's how you feel. And you can help yourself by starting. Tomorrow is Monday. It is a perfect time to start. Remember this, tomorrow is gone. No, yesterday is gone. Let's start that again. Remember this, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow actually never comes. It never comes. And today's actually all we get. We only have today. It's literally Groundhog Day. We live a lifetime of today's. So that thing that you're wanting to do tomorrow, start it today. I hope today brought you value. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Of course, this commercial-free stream was brought to you by the members of this channel. If you became a member recently, you're going to see your name scrolling across the top of the screen, like Freddie, like Colin, and like Chick Aeronosaurus, like Jose Aranda, like Sebastian Kawaka, like Ammon Photo. Thank you guys all for becoming members. If you found me recently and hit the subscribe button, you're going to see your name scrolling across the bottom of the screen because I like to give everybody love. Everybody love. So everybody gets that love. At least the last 25 of you. Guys, if this content brought you some value, please feel free to share, tell a friend, and Substack. Jump on Substack, subscribe to my A Life Behind the Camera newsletter, and set up your own Substack. Substack's been the best thing that I've ever done for consistency since YouTube. I love you guys. Thanks for watching.